Have you noticed lately how time seems to be rushing by? Days blur into weeks and weeks into months with a speed that feels unnatural. It's as if the hands of the clock are spinning faster, and no matter how much we try to grasp the present moment, it slips through our fingers like sand. What's happening? Why does time seem to be moving quicker, and what does it mean on a deeper spiritual level? Historical perspective of time. This isn't just an illusion of our minds, nor is it solely a symptom of modern life's fast-paced demands. In fact, ancient spiritual traditions and modern philosophies suggest that time is undergoing a transformation, accelerating, quickening because of a profound shift in human consciousness. Time, as we know it, is more than a sequence of moments measured by seconds and hours. It's deeply connected to our spiritual state, our collective energy, and the very fabric of the universe. The feeling that time is speeding up has been shared by people around the world, from all walks of life. While some chalk it up to the busyness of modern schedules, others are beginning to sense that there's something deeper at work, something cosmic. Could it be that the universe is sending us a message? Could the acceleration of time be a reflection of a larger spiritual awakening? We have to ask ourselves, what is time, really? Many ancient philosophies teach that time is not a rigid external force, but rather a fluid experience connected to our awareness. For example, in Buddhism, time is often seen as a construct of the mind. The past and future are considered mere illusions, while the present moment is the only true reality. So what happens when our collective consciousness begins to shift away from old patterns and starts to open up to new possibilities? Time responds to us. It bends, stretches, and yes, speeds up. It's no coincidence that as humanity experiences rapid technological advancements, there is also a growing interest in mindfulness, meditation, and spiritual awakening. People are starting to realize that while technology promises to make life easier and more efficient, it also amplifies the feeling that time is slipping away. This sense of acceleration is not just about having too much to do, it's a reflection of something much larger. A global spiritual transformation that's changing the way we relate to time itself. Consider the famous parable of the tortoise and the hare. At first glance, it's a simple story about the virtues of patience and perseverance. But what if we take a closer look? The hare, fast and restless, races ahead without truly being present, without appreciating the journey. The tortoise, slow and steady, moves at his own pace, fully experiencing every step of the way. In this story, the hare is like modern society, rushing from one thing to the next, always in a hurry. The tortoise, on the other hand, represents the timeless wisdom of spiritual presence, the kind that doesn't measure time by the ticking of a clock, but by the depth of each moment. In this speeding up of time, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Will we continue racing ahead, disconnected from the present, or will we slow down and align with the deeper rhythms of the universe? The choice is ours, but the effects of this decision are already being felt. The acceleration of time is not something happening to us. It's something happening within us as our consciousness shifts toward higher dimensions of awareness. The Ascension. It is believed that the speeding up of time is linked to what some call the Ascension, a process by which humanity is collectively rising to a higher state of consciousness. In this new state, time doesn't function in the same way. The linear, predictable nature of time begins to dissolve, replaced by something more fluid and expansive. You might have already noticed it, those moments where time seems to stretch or compress, where hours pass in a blink, or a single minute feels like eternity. These experiences are glimpses into the deeper truth of time as a flexible, energetic phenomenon. The philosopher Eckhart Tolle, in his renowned work, The Power of Now, speaks about the importance of living fully in the present moment. He teaches that time is only a mental construct and that our attachment to the past and future is what causes suffering. Could it be that the current acceleration of time is a wake-up call, urging us to break free from this attachment and to live more fully in the present? Perhaps the more we cling to the old ways of thinking about time, the faster it seems to slip away. But when we become fully present, truly here and now, time, in a sense, slows down. It becomes more spacious, more abundant. As we look around at the world today, with its rapid changes and overwhelming pace, it's easy to feel like we're losing control. But this speeding up of time is not meant to overwhelm us. It's meant to remind us of something important. The universe is calling us to awaken, to step out of the frantic race and into a deeper, more connected way of being. The acceleration of time is a mirror reflecting our internal state. The more we align with our spiritual nature, the more we can navigate this new, faster reality with grace and ease. Throughout history, various traditions have spoken about cycles of time, periods of rapid change followed by slower, more reflective times. The ancient Maya, for example, had a highly advanced understanding of time, seeing it as cyclical rather than linear. Their calendars marked not just the passing of days, but the unfolding of cosmic energies. Many people believe that we are now entering a new cycle, one in which the speed of time is accelerating as we move closer to a pivotal moment in human evolution. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's something we're experiencing in our daily lives. But how do we make sense of it all? How do we adjust to a world where time seems to be running ahead of us? The answer lies not in trying to keep up, but in slowing down. The paradox of this spiritual shift is that while time appears to be speeding up, the key to navigating it lies in our ability to be still. Just like the tortoise, we must find our own pace, rooted in the present moment, even as the world around us accelerates. The speeding up of time is not something to fear. It's a sign of our collective growth, a reflection of the immense spiritual potential waiting to be unlocked. As humanity collectively moves toward a higher state of consciousness, we experience time differently, more fluidly, more intensely. Yet the question remains, what can we do about it? How can we learn to live in harmony with time's shifting rhythms, instead of feeling like we're constantly being swept away? Living in harmony with time. To begin understanding this, let's return to the idea that time, in its essence, is not a fixed external force. It is something deeply connected to our inner state, our emotions, our thoughts, our spiritual awareness. In ancient philosophies such as Taoism, there is a principle known as Wu Wei, or action through non-action. This idea teaches us that when we stop resisting the natural flow of the universe, we can move with it effortlessly. The faster time seems to go, the more it calls for us to practice this effortless action, slowing down within ourselves, even as the world outside rushes ahead. This is where mindfulness comes in. You might have heard of mindfulness as a tool for stress relief, but its true power lies much deeper. When we practice mindfulness, we are anchoring ourselves in the present moment, making time stretch and expand in ways that are hard to explain yet deeply felt. Think of those moments when you are completely absorbed in something, whether it's a conversation with a loved one, a walk in nature, or a creative project. Time seems to disappear, doesn't it? Hours can pass in what feels like minutes. In those moments, you are aligned with the natural flow of time instead of being at odds with it. But there's more to mindfulness than just paying attention to the present. It's about developing a relationship with time. In indigenous cultures, time is often seen as a living entity, something that you can engage with, listen to, and even learn from. The Lakota people, for example, speak of time as a circle, constantly flowing with no real beginning or end. This perspective stands in stark contrast to the linear view of time that dominates most modern societies, where the past is behind us, the future is ahead, and the present is merely a fleeting moment in between. If time is a circle, then what does it mean for us as individuals living in this accelerated world? It means that we must learn to reconnect with the cyclical nature of life. Instead of racing toward an uncertain future or trying to cling to the past, we must learn to dwell fully in each moment, understanding that the present contains both the seeds of the past and the possibilities of the future. When we do this, we stop feeling like time is slipping away from us. Instead, we begin to flow with it. This understanding is not just theoretical, it has practical implications for our daily lives. Take, for example, the concept of the flow state, popularized by psychologists like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. The flow state occurs when we are so fully engaged in an activity that we lose all sense of time. In these moments, our actions seem to come effortlessly and time becomes almost irrelevant. Many people experience this state during creative pursuits, sports, or even deep conversation. What's happening in these moments is that our awareness is completely absorbed in the present, and as a result, time seems to slow down even as it continues to move forward. The speeding up of time, then, is not something to fight or resist. Rather, it's an invitation to enter into a deeper relationship with time, one that is based on presence and flow rather than struggle and resistance. In this sense, time is like a river. When we fight against its current, we feel exhausted and overwhelmed. But when we surrender and allow ourselves to be carried by it, we discover that we can move effortlessly without being swept away. This idea is echoed in many spiritual traditions, including the teachings of the mystic Sufi poet Rumi, who said, "When you let go of what you are, you become what you might be." Time, in its acceleration, is asking us to let go of our rigid schedules, our obsession with productivity, our constant need to control every moment. It's asking us to trust in the deeper flow of life, to recognize that even as time appears to speed up, there is a stillness at the center of it all, a stillness that we can access whenever we choose. In Christian mysticism, there is a similar teaching often illustrated by the story of Jesus calming the storm. His disciples, terrified by the violent winds and crashing waves, wake him, afraid for their lives. But Jesus, calm and centered, rises and says, "Peace, be still." The storm subsides and all is quiet. This story, on the surface, is about faith and divine power. But on a deeper level, it's a reminder that even in the midst of chaos, even when time feels like a storm rushing forward with uncontrollable force, we can find peace and stillness within ourselves. The storm does not need to define us. In today's world filled with deadlines, notifications, and constant distractions, it can be difficult to find that stillness. But that's precisely why time is speeding up, to push us toward finding it. The faster time moves, the more urgent the need to cultivate inner peace becomes. The more chaotic the world seems, the more essential it is for us to develop a spiritual practice that grounds us in the present moment. Meditation, prayer, mindful breathing, these practices are not just ways to relieve stress. They are tools for reorienting ourselves in a world that is rapidly shifting. The more we engage in these practices, the more we begin to see that time is not something outside of us. It is something we can shape and influence through our own awareness. This is why spiritual masters, from Eastern gurus to Christian monks, have always taught the importance of living in the present moment. It's not just about being more mindful or relaxed. It's about aligning with the deeper rhythms of the universe. And when we do that, we stop feeling like time is speeding by. Instead, we start to experience time as expansive, as abundant, as something we are a part of, rather than something we are racing against. But there's more to this phenomenon than merely personal adjustment. The accelerating tempo of time is tied to something much larger, a collective transformation that humanity is undergoing on a spiritual level. Many spiritual traditions speak of ages or cycles of human consciousness, each with its own characteristics. The ancient Mayans, for example, divided time into vast epochs or baktuns, each marked by significant shifts in human awareness. The conclusion of the Mayan long count calendar in 2012 was widely misunderstood as a prophecy of the world's end. But those who study the deeper meanings of Mayan cosmology suggest that 2012 was not about destruction, but about the end of an era and the beginning of a new one, an age of accelerated consciousness and heightened awareness. This new age, some believe, is what we are now experiencing, with time seeming to move faster because humanity is collectively awakening. But awakening to what? The expansion of human consciousness. At its core, this is about the expansion of human consciousness. For centuries, we have been deeply entrenched in the material world, fixated on the physical, the tangible, the measurable. Time was seen as something rigid, something to be divided and structured. But as we awaken to a higher level of awareness, we begin to understand that time is not a linear path we must tread, but a more fluid and multi-dimensional experience. In Hindu philosophy, this transition is often described in terms of the yugas or ages that cycle through different levels of spiritual understanding. The age we are said to be leaving is known as the Kali Yuga, a time of materialism, division, and disconnection from spiritual truths. As we move forward, we enter a period of greater unity, awareness, and connection, where the spiritual and material realms blend more seamlessly. Time, as we experience it, shifts in response to this transition. It moves faster, not to overwhelm us, but to push us toward a new way of being. This speeding up of time is, in many ways, a wake-up call. It is as if the universe is shaking us, saying, "Pay attention." We are being urged to evolve beyond our limited ego-based perspectives and recognize the interconnectedness of all things. Time, in this sense, is a mirror, reflecting the state of our collective consciousness. As we grow more aware, time seems to move faster because we are becoming more attuned to the infinite possibilities that exist within each moment. The philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin spoke of the Omega Point, a future state of human evolution in which consciousness reaches its peak and merges with the divine. In his view, humanity is on a journey toward greater spiritual awareness, and the speeding up of time is a sign that we are approaching this critical point. According to Teilhard, as we approach the Omega Point, time will continue to accelerate, bringing us closer to a moment of collective enlightenment. This idea resonates with many spiritual teachings, particularly those that speak of an impending shift in human consciousness. Some refer to this as the Ascension, a process in which humanity moves from a third-dimensional, ego-based reality to a higher fourth or fifth-dimensional consciousness. In this new state of being, time is experienced very differently, less as a linear progression and more as a series of unfolding possibilities. In other words, the faster time seems to move, the closer we are to breaking free from the limitations of linear time altogether. But what does this mean for us, here and now, living in a world that still operates largely on clocks and calendars? How do we navigate this transition without feeling constantly overwhelmed or out of sync? The natural rhythms of the universe. The answer lies in learning to tune in to the natural rhythms of the universe. In many indigenous cultures, time was never something to be feared or controlled. Instead, it was something to be harmonized with. The sun, the moon, the changing seasons, all of these were seen as guides, helping people stay connected to the larger cycles of life. While modern life often pulls us away from these natural rhythms, we can still find ways to reconnect. One way to do this is through rituals and practices that honor the flow of time, such as meditation, journaling, or simply spending more time in nature. When we align ourselves with these rhythms, we begin to notice a shift in how we experience time. Moments that once felt rushed or frantic start to feel more spacious. Tasks that once seemed overwhelming become more manageable. This is because we are no longer trying to keep up with time, we are learning to flow with it. In doing so, we tap into a deeper sense of peace, even as the world around us speeds up. Another way to navigate this accelerating time is by cultivating a sense of purpose. In a world where everything seems to be moving faster, it's easy to feel lost or disconnected. But when we have a clear sense of purpose, time becomes our ally rather than our enemy. Purpose helps us prioritize what truly matters, allowing us to focus our energy on what is most meaningful rather than getting caught up in the rush of daily life. The great spiritual teacher Ram Dass often spoke of the importance of being here now. This simple yet profound teaching reminds us that the only true reality is the present moment. The past is gone, and the future has yet to arrive. All we ever have is this moment right now, and within this moment lies the potential for deep transformation. When we learn to live fully in the present, time no longer feels like a force that is slipping away from us. Instead, it becomes a vehicle for spiritual growth, a doorway into the infinite. What's striking about this rapid shift in time is that it's not happening in isolation. It is intertwined with a profound global shift, one that is affecting every corner of the planet. Climate change, technological advancements, social upheavals, and shifts in political and economic structures are all moving faster than ever before. For many, this sense of time slipping through our fingers is directly linked to the chaos and uncertainty we see in the world. However, from a spiritual perspective, this accelerated change is part of a larger evolution. We are being asked, both individually and collectively, to grow beyond the limits of old systems, old ways of thinking, and old ways of being. In many ancient traditions, times of great transformation are preceded by periods of intense upheaval. In Buddhist teachings, this is symbolized by the lotus flower, which blooms from the muddiest waters. The struggles and challenges we face as individuals and as a collective are the fertile ground from which new consciousness will emerge. And just as the lotus rises slowly but steadily from the depths of the muck, we too are being invited to rise, both spiritually and energetically. But what does this rise look like in practical terms? How can we engage with this accelerated time in a way that aligns with our highest selves? How to engage with accelerated time? First, we must acknowledge that this time is not something to passively endure. It is an invitation. In many indigenous cultures, times of rapid change are seen as sacred, as opportunities to align with the forces of creation. These traditions often speak of the concept of right timing, or kairos in ancient Greek thought, which refers to a moment ripe with potential. We are now living in such a time. Every moment, though fleeting, is filled with immense potential for growth and change. To harness this potential, we must first let go of the illusion that time is our enemy. So many of us feel the weight of time pressing down on us, rushing to meet deadlines, running from one task to the next, constantly feeling as though there's not enough time to do what we need or want to do. This is a symptom of our attachment to linear time. But as we've seen, time is far more expansive and multidimensional than our human minds have traditionally understood. When we release the need to control time, when we stop resisting its flow, we create space for the magic of the present moment to unfold. One practice that can help us make this shift is the cultivation of sacred pauses. In the whirlwind of life, it's easy to get caught up in the rush and lose sight of the deeper rhythms at play. By intentionally creating moments of stillness, whether through meditation, prayer, breathwork, or simply pausing to notice the beauty of the natural world, we reconnect with the timeless essence of who we are. These pauses help us step outside of the rush and into the flow of the universe, where time moves in harmony with the soul. Interestingly, this practice mirrors the wisdom of many indigenous cultures, where time is viewed as cyclical rather than linear. In Native American and Aboriginal traditions, for example, there is a deep reverence for the cycles of the earth, the seasons, the phases of the moon, the movements of the stars. By attuning ourselves to these cycles, we begin to experience time in a more expansive way. The pressure of not enough time dissolves as we realize that time is not a finite resource, but a flowing, ever-present force that moves with us, not against us. As time speeds up, another key spiritual tool at our disposal is community. The fast pace of the modern world often leaves us feeling disconnected from each other, isolated in our struggles. But the very nature of this acceleration is pushing us toward greater unity. In many spiritual traditions, the shift from one age to another is marked by a collective awakening, a recognition that we are all interconnected, that our individual actions ripple out to affect the whole. In Hindu philosophy, this is often referred to as the understanding of Advaita, or non-duality, the realization that all things are one. In practical terms, this means that as time accelerates, we are being called to connect with others on a deeper level. This doesn't just mean spending more time with friends or loved ones, though that's certainly important. It means creating and participating in communities that support spiritual growth, that foster kindness, compassion, and cooperation. Whether through local gatherings, online networks, or spiritual groups, the power of community helps us navigate this rapid shift with greater ease. When we come together with others, we amplify our ability to stay grounded, to stay present, and to align with the higher consciousness that is emerging. This brings us to the final point: trust in the process. It is easy to feel overwhelmed when time feels like it's spinning out of control. The constant barrage of news, the rapid pace of change, the uncertainty about the future, it can all be incredibly disorienting. But part of the spiritual lesson of this time is learning to trust in the greater unfolding. As much as we are being asked to act, to step into our power, and to align with the flow of time, we are also being asked to surrender. This doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means releasing our attachment to outcomes and trusting that the universe is guiding us toward where we need to be. In the Taoist tradition, there is a concept known as Wu Wei, often translated as non-doing or effortless action. It teaches that the most powerful actions often come from a place of surrender, of allowing things to unfold in their own time rather than forcing them. As time speeds up, this principle becomes even more vital. We must learn to move with the flow of time rather than against it. When we do, we find that the very thing we feared, time slipping away, becomes our greatest ally. It propels us forward in our spiritual growth, pushing us toward new possibilities and deeper understanding. Ultimately, the acceleration of time is a reflection of the spiritual evolution that is taking place on a global scale. We are in the midst of a profound transformation, one that is pushing humanity toward greater unity, greater awareness, and greater connection to the divine. While it can feel overwhelming at times, this speeding up is not something to be feared. It is a call to awaken, to step more fully into the present moment, and to embrace the infinite potential that lies within each passing second. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.